just everybody run do their own fucking thing. You know, you have to drive things in a certain manner to get the overall goal. So discipline and standard operating procedure goes a long ways in that. Talked quite a bit about like improving our group movement, understanding the mechanics of the map a little bit better, or opening up for any questions on that. That might be something that we end up talking a lot more about later for the people that really want to have a good understanding of it, you know, because some people just look at it and they're like, oh, something's flagged, cool, you know, whereas there's a lot to that map and the mechanics of it. And it weighs into your crown's decisions, you know, so when your crowns are rolling around and you don't quite understand what they are doing or why they're doing it, you know, there's a lot of other variables, and some of them are just straight off the map as to why you're doing what you're doing, you know. And almost every move I make as a crown, I'm looking at the map quick and then basing my decision off of that. You might rely on or be able to capitalize on that you don't have right now. So you got to change your play to that a little bit. And this is all before you even find a group. You're just making sure that you got your character in check. And where you're at, you know, you just, a lot of the times you're going to base that off your closest beneficial asset. Because everywhere you step, that first step you take, you know, is a big determining factor. And what's behind you, you know, determines where you're going and what you're up to. So, knowing what's around you, whether it be like, you know, camps, is the keep right behind you, is it a friendly resource behind you, and always going through these questions as you're playing. You know, you get really good at it to where you're not even really asking yourself the question, but you know the answer, you know, and it dictates a lot of the flow as for a whole group, you know, when it comes to moving around and stuff. Like, and understanding which direction is the most favorable really you know, because most of your crowns, you know, like if they're just coming off of a camp to push back into to Allswell or something, they're probably lining up with that camp behind them, and, you know, obviously their goal, they're going to be in between those two things. So like when you're running into a new battle and you see a camp off to the right, go towards the camp and then look for the group, because they should, you know, you should see them coming back together off of that camp. And one of the best ways to do that is when you first show up, it's just identifying what's the favorable direction. You know, if you've got a lumber mill behind you or something like that and your group's fighting, well, should you go right for the front door, or should you go over to the resource real quick and then come in to support your group? You know, so there you are with that, orientating yourself, understanding what you're running into, which direction the group's facing, all that stuff. And one of the best ways to determine that is, thanks to Zoss, there's a crown. You know, generally speaking, crown's 12 o'clock is your 12 o'clock. When you hear your crown saying, it's over here in front of me, you know, if anybody else says that, it's kind of like, oh yeah, where the fuck are you? You know, but if it's your crown, well, where's crown? Okay, there's crown. Oh, he's looking over there. You know, it's real easy to figure that out. And then just simply having a little bit more crown awareness personally, you know, as for orientating yourself and getting an understanding of what's going on, always knowing where your crown is part of that. Because, you know, this is all stuff that you can continuously cycle through your head throughout the battle and throughout the day, is having an understanding of all of these things. So your crown's 12 o'clock generally decides the group's 12 o'clock, unless, you know, there's some other instruction or just immediate contact. So, because once a crown says, or somebody says we're getting hit from the back, and the crown turns the group around and starts pushing the back, says push the back, that kind of becomes your 12 o'clock. You know, completely flip-flops things to the point to where if he says left, it's the complete opposite if you're not looking the right fucking way, right? So you really gotta, you know, once there's been an adjustment made, and the ram is a really good example for this. You got your group on the ram, everything's swinging, and the the rear starts getting hit, or say there's like 6 of them back there. You know that you can't stay on the ram, or your group's not coming to you quick enough. And even if they are coming back to the ram where they should be, because when you first start getting hit on a siege, you need to pull towards the ram, towards your support unit. And all the while you're doing this, your crown can turn around and decide, do we need to shift out of this position? Can we fight straight forward off of this position? Do we need to even bother with what's behind us? Or should we open the door first, go from there? And the shit's about a decision like that, or one of the things that can make it a little more difficult while you're making it, is your group. What's your group doing? If you got 3 people over there playing with one Nightblade, and it's like, well, the whole rest of the group goes in, there's a good chance I'm going to lose 3 people out here. So now you got to turn and bring your whole group around just to deal with that, and you're making up your mind before it has to be made up, and they're fucking it up for you. Because ideally, when you get hit by contact, you're going to shrink to the center, and then you can ball group pretty much from anywhere there. Because all plans suffer at first contact, right? Like, we're going to go up to Ash front door, we're going to siege up, get it open. Once you start operating in that, it just opens up a whole bunch of other benefits. And it becomes really fun then. When you're a crown and you can pull a whoop-de-doo on the other group, you feel pretty fucking good. You're like, yeah, we did that.
Or when you can, like, solo, like, 5 guys and, like, blow them all up.
Well, or, and I've had this happen to where I knew myself and one other DPS in my group could go over and hit their flank. And I knew it would make a huge difference. I went over there just to kind of watch this dude's back, and he was just fucking killing people. And it was like, yes, we just won the day, motherfucker. So there's a room for it, and being provided a moment to identify it is huge. So, like I say, the other really big thing about that group formation is that your group movement becomes more efficient. And you're looking for tight, quick, and quiet. You're wanting to do whatever you're doing, get it done, move fast, hit hard. Even if that's an open field battle, a lot of people underestimate the reality of it is when you go into battle, if you know you're going to run into a big group and you're crowning, it's like, okay, we need to take this route, because if we get into a fight halfway between here and there, this is where I want to do it. I'm going to maintain the high ground, or vice versa. You're going to pick your battlefield a little bit, and if your group is just jet streaming, it makes that next to impossible. Next thing you know, your crown's out in the field with a pile of yellow coming at him, and he's like, no, over here. Like, fucking save my ass. 3 people show up, all 3 of you die. 4 more people show up, they die. 2 more people show up, they die. Everybody spawned back at Winter's Peak. Now they're running again. Oh, they're dying again. You gotta form up. And like I say, speak up to where if your DPS is getting out too far, let them know. As subtle as it needs to be, even, to where it's like, hey, let's tighten up our DPS. Don't call them out by name or anything. Just say it is what it is. And I don't see anybody that's able to argue with you unless they're like some crazy fucking badass DPS, and at which point they should probably discuss with the group how badass they are. Because we need to know. If we just stand over here, are you gonna flip everything else for us? Cool. We'll do that. Not to say that person exists, but in that instance, you'd take advantage of it, right? So again, formation is just going to really help your group movement, and you're going for tight, quick, and quiet. You're really trying to get that nailed down, because that is been one of Daggerfall's biggest things, is we've always been able to move quick, and we've always been able to make decisive moves, like taking Brindle when Brindle needs to be taken, taking back Claw when we have an opportunity, because say sometimes you're holding off an imp push, but you can't afford to just sit on your hands. What do? Well, I have a really fast group. They siege like fucking animals. Let's go to Dragon Claw. We can make it back down here before they flip Allswell. And you kind of gauge it off of that. and it goes to being quick, tight, quiet, the whole 9 yards. And everything in front of that benefits that. So if you're better with your character and you understand it more, if your horse is trained up, all that shit that we've talked to up till now, all helps your group movement in the three main categories, which is tight, quick, and quiet. But a really big part of what his question was, it needs to be answered, is how do you identify that? So like I say, that's kind of what you're looking at on all of these original questions when you asked yourself when you first came into Cyrodiil.
I got 10 AD on me at glass, so I drew a lot of them down here to the south, so you guys should be good there at Ash.
Alright.
Yeah, there's 10 AD at Vlast right now. They just jumped me because I was flipping flags, so Ash should be good for a little while.
So now that your group, you came into Cyrodiil, you grouped up, your group is now moving tight, quick, and quiet. Everything's fucking hitting on all cylinders. Now you're headed somewhere and you're probably most likely sieging. So we're gonna go ahead and we'll talk a little bit about sieging and getting on site. So this is actually where we should do a visual to where everybody should come up to Warden and we should just have a little talk about siege. Different crowns are going to do different things. One of the best examples I can think of on that is Pun likes to have his ram up, get it done, get it going, get it swinging, get it hitting. We got to start sieging this place. I like to put ballistas underneath the ram so that once it is flagged, I've maximized all of my real estate and I've got maximum damage on that door. And I've done everything I can to protect that, or to make that happen. So again, this part is subject to your crown, some of the little parts of it, but all in all, like running 5 ballistas, if you're a siege master, you know what I'm saying when I say run 5 ballistas. It's not the easiest thing to set up, but when you go and you solo flag things like Ash right now, if you just solo flag that, he probably used 4 ballistas minimum.
Yeah, I used like 6 or 7.
Exactly.
Set them up in a circle right around you and just run around in a circle and just shoot them.
Well, and 5's the magic number, and it's sometimes it's depending on your group size. Like if we have a good enough, efficient enough group running, I'll actually only put up 4. And the reason is because the time it took you to put that other ballista up was time lost and time wasted.
Yeah.
But again, that depends on your group.
To touch on just so people kind of understand, like here at Ash, you can kind of see how we just got completely ambushed, and in the event, like when you're
trapped,
in the event that you're going to throw that ram up on the inner, if you know what I mean, like where the reason why I quit putting the ballista up is because if all I can do is get a ram up and fight from it, then why would I want to put a ballista in the way? And I found myself dying trying to shoot that one ballista. It's more inconvenient than anything. But like if you're just taking a fucking map and it's you're not worried about enemies and shit, then you know what I mean? Like,
pre-flag is where you're gonna try. That's where you're most likely. That's where I start shooting for it. Now, if I go to Brindle with my group and I've got somebody that's actually able to pull that off or help me out with it, which is usually the case, I just need somebody to help me for a moment.
Alright,
but if that's not happening, let's all slip down to Glade and just be there on site for a moment before we have this discussion in depth. So pre-flag is definitely a big part of that, but say that I've got a group that's putting that ballista under there for me efficiently and just, like I say, firing on all cylinders, then I might ask for it again and we might just stay up here and keep that DPS going, because especially when it's under flag, you're trying to get that shit done and you can't let up. And you can't afford to sit there and stumble over and negate from a mender, let alone somebody just put a ballista up in front of you.
So I just wanted to make sure that, there's nothing wrong with putting the ballista down first, but just realize that if you're in a situation where all you can do is put down one item, why would you not want to just put a ram down? You know what I mean? That's the only thing.
Definitely.
Just wanted to touch on
and that is a big part of it, like I say, is pre-flag. And if that goes off without a hitch, then all right, we're probably going to do it on the inside again. Everybody knows what's going on. But definitely once it's flagged, Once
And
it's
another
flagged,
thing,
you
and this
can't
might
afford
seem
to
a
wait
little
for that.
too, might seem a little too anal or whatever, but another thing you want to watch out for when you put the ballista down first is if you don't put it close enough to the door, you're literally just shooting the ram, in
Yeah.
which case you're not even doing damage to the door. You know,
Yeah, you gotta know
the
what you're up
ballistas
to.
don't shoot through the ram, they shoot the
No.
ram itself. So you want to make sure that you're not shooting the ram with it. That's all. I just want to add that.
We got some repairs on the Glade front door. But that's, you know, that's a really good example of you got different crowns doing different things, and you just got to be ready to adjust to that. Because believe you me, if a crown's putting all their efforts into getting that ram up, and you keep putting a ballista under him and negating him, it's gonna get annoying real fast.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, to where, and if you're ever in question, again, don't be shy. Just say, hey, I'm putting a ballista down, you know, and that gives your crown a moment to be like, no, just let me put the ram down, or I'll take care of it, or, and if anything, it's going to signal to the rest of your group that you're going for ballistas. They need to make sure and do some DPS, because if we all go to the porch and everybody decides they're going to put up a ballista, that means no ads are dying, no, you know, and that right there is one of your biggest benefits to getting that ram up. You can fight from the ram to your fucking counter siege. That has got to change. That has got to change. And just like everything else, if you've done everything in front of, or up to now, and you've constantly evaluated it and figured it out, you're going to be able to prioritize things like that, because your crown's going to be able to say shift left, and everybody's going to shift left, and your meat bag's going to get defended. Because that right there, on so many occasions, can you be watching a battle, and Skooma puts up a meat bag, and it shifts. The whole battle just fucking shifted. Okay? Moments later, she gets killed. Guess what happens? Whole fucking battle shifts. You know, so you gotta, and it's inside of that prioritizing. And just like I say, you know, you're gonna prioritize your position and use that to identify yourself in the group. Later on, you're gonna use all of those same principles to determine more about your future gameplay. Okay? Because there is so much to Siege that it's a lot to go through.